You're listening to Art Affairs, episode 44. Today I'll be talking to Linnea Strid. Alright, so my name's Michael Faith, and this is Art Affairs. Art Affairs is my attempt at shining a spotlight on the many wonderful people that make up this amazing art community, featuring conversations with artists, gallerists, curators, telling their stories. You can dig through previous episodes, complete with show notes, at artaffairs.podcast.com, but the best way to stay plugged in is to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're really enjoying the show and want to help support what I'm doing here in an even bigger way, check out the Art Affairs Patreon. Not only does it give you an opportunity to help keep the show going, but there are several community-oriented benefits as well, like getting early access to episodes and suggesting questions for upcoming guests. You can find all the information about that at patreon.com/artaffairs. You can also connect with the show on Instagram and Facebook at Art Affairs Podcast. All right, so today's guest is artist Linnea Strid. Linnea focuses heavily on portraying both water and intense emotions. But that wasn't always the case, and we talk about how Linnea discovered her artistic voice on the show, as well as the differences in the art community she experienced between living in Sweden and then in Spain, the double-edged sword of social media, and a whole lot more. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Linnea Strid. Linnea, welcome to the show. It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Awesome. So let's dive into your background for a little bit. And from what I understand, you grew up in a small village in Sweden. So what was that area like? Was it more of like a farmland? Was it rural? What was that area like?
Yeah, pretty much farmland in the middle of nowhere. You know, lots of fields everywhere and stuff in nature. Not a lot of people.
What did your parents do? Were they like farmers or?
No, my dad, he worked as a developer in the paper mill industry. So he was kind of self-employed and, he he invented a lot of stuff that I don't even know what they're about. You know, it's really complicated. I wish I had inherited an inch of all his intelligence, but I don't know. I don't think I have.
What about your mom?
Well, she worked for the Swedish IRS, you could say, works with taxes and stuff like that. But when she got pregnant with me, she was like, I really don't want to work. I hate this. So I'm just going to stay home and take care of my kid. And so she did, because my dad was working a lot at the time and he was traveling and yeah.
So, from what I understand, you were an only child. So, living in a small town without brothers or sisters, what sort of stuff did you like to do for fun?
Mostly draw and paint. I did that from a really early age. I started drawing when I was 2 years old, and I continued to do that.
What sparked that interest in you? Were your parents artistic?
Yeah, I mean, my dad always did art when I grew up. We used to draw and paint together. You know, we took an art class together when I was 11, I think. I started. It was an oil painting class that he and I took together, and it was fun. And my mom, I don't know, not really into the art. I mean, she loved art, always have, but she's not making art herself, but she's still a pretty creative person, I think.
Were they both pretty supportive of your interest in the arts? Is it something they encouraged?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They always told me they wanted me to be a painter, a musician, and a writer. That would be their dream, of me.
All three or one of those?
No, all three. So a lot of pressure, and I was I'm sorry, I could only be a painter.
So, I mean, it sounds like you had opportunities to take classes. Was that something that you had available in school, even though it was a small town, to learn art?
Not really. You know, it was just the regular stuff. We always had the possibility to have like an hour of drawing or something like that in school, but it was nothing serious, So, yeah, unfortunately.
So as a kid, like your entire childhood, was it always your aim to be an artist? Was that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, always. I don't know. I had this naive idea of how it would be to be an artist. It's like, it's going to be fine. I didn't see any issues at all. And my parents were always like, yeah, of course. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be great. I had no idea.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So when you were 16, like midway through your teen years, your family moved to southern Spain, which seems like a very different atmosphere from what you kind of grew up in.
Yes.
What was the reason for that move? What led that move?
Well, they bought a small vacation house there in '96, I think. And we just went there over the summers and for holidays and stuff. And after some years, they realized that my father was always traveling, and he was sometimes more in other countries than he was in Sweden with us. So we felt like, well, we could just move to another country, and that would be the same, And I was pretty tired of living where I was living because of the size of the place we lived. And I don't know, the narrow-mindedness of a lot of people there kind of made me feel like an outsider. And I was ready to move to another place and just see something different, And my parents felt the same way. So we moved there.
Did you know Spanish at all before you moved?
No, not at all. But I went to a Swedish school there. But I went from one place where I didn't feel like I fit in to another place where I felt like I didn't fit in. So because it was a lot of rich people going to that school, and I was not from a rich family at all. And I kind of felt like, this punk rock kid, in this place where everyone's super pretty, not all of them, of course, and there were more than just their parents, but, I felt like I didn't belong there. And so I started hanging out with Spanish people that wasn't in the school, and that I felt were more like into arts and music and, the same kind of music that I was in. So
was the access to the arts and art community different in Spain compared to what you'd experienced growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like there were galleries everywhere and the exhibitions, and everyone was just so into art, and everyone was, they saw me painting and they were like, oh, you should show here, and I was like, I was only 16 and still they were so welcoming to me, everyone was like, oh, you have such talent. Oh, this is great. You need to show here. And I was like, oh, yay. Like, finally. So, I had a blast there. So many opportunities. I had my first solo show there when I was 19. And it was like, they just gave me the opportunity, and
yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. You started showing at 16 in like 2000.
Yeah.
So like, how did you first start getting your work noticed by galleries? Like, it's different if your friends are kind of encouraging you, but then how did the galleries actually start noticing and you get those opportunities?
I think they were like, you could submit to the galleries and they would take you in, like, but you didn't have to pay anything, because now normally there's like there's a fee you have to pay to be able to apply at all. But they were just like, show us what you got and you can show here. And I was like, okay. And they were fine, they were very, I don't know, a very positive environment there. And So
that ended up leading to you having your first solo show like 3 years later at 19. Yeah. Was it that same kind of community that encouraged you to kind of ultimately get a solo show going?
Yeah, it was. It was my first solo show were actually at the Swedish Spanish Association, I think it was called. And they were regularly having like group shows because a lot of their members were into art, collecting art and making art. And they just, it was so long ago, but I don't remember how it happened. But I don't know if they asked me to be part or if I reached out to them, so.
Did you end up learning Spanish before you moved back?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but now it's all, I've forgotten a lot about it, sadly. Yeah, it was sad.
Right on. So you ended up moving back to Sweden in 2004, like the year after your solo show there. What prompted the move back to Sweden?
I don't know. We had lived there for 5 years, and we were all a bit, homesick, I guess, in some way. I don't know how it happened, but we were all like, no, I think we're ready to like go back to Sweden again. And my mother were concerned. She were concerned because I was kind of forgetting Swedish, because I was speaking Spanish all the time with my Spanish boyfriend and his parents and all my Spanish friends. So she was like, you're not going to, like, your Swedish language is going to like stay at a certain level, and you're not going to grow up speaking Swedish, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she was a bit concerned. I mean, she was like, maybe we need to move back to Sweden so you can like grow up and be a Swede also, because now you have the Spanish part of you, and you know. And I agreed. Yeah, but I love Spain. I still have it in my heart. I haven't been there for ages, but I'm still like part Spanish. I love that place. Yeah, it was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds like it kind of was at the right time too, it feels like.
Yeah.
When you moved back, did you move back to the same small town that you'd grown up in, or did you move to more of an urban environment?
I actually moved to the city where I live now, and I lived there for 3 years, I think. I was going to here in Sweden. We have like these preparatory art schools that you go to before you're even able to apply to an art college. So this was like, and it's really easy to get in, it's like you pay a small fee of like, I don't know how much it was, like $500 maybe for a year, and you can go there, and it's pretty easy to get in. And I went for I think for 2 years at one school, and then 2 years at another school. And I was hoping to get into an art college eventually, but, I never got in. So I applied for for 5 times or something like that. And they always rejected me. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough. And I thought maybe I should do something else. So I went to the university to study languages. I thought maybe since I spoke Spanish so well, I thought maybe I could be a translator or something like that. So I did that for 2 years, I think. And then I realized that it was not my calling, because I got sad because I didn't have any time to do art. So I was like, no, screw it. I'm gonna be an artist, and I don't care. Like I have enough money saved up so I can be an artist. I can work as an artist for 1 year. This was in 2009, and I decided to just go for it. And here I am.
Are there aspects of formal art education that you feel like you wished you had, or that you missed out on?
I mean, the thing about school is that I always felt like I learn better by myself. It's very difficult for me to take in what others are trying to teach me for some reason. I don't know why. I'm a bit self-absorbed like that. I don't know. I don't know why. It's strange, but school, it's not for me, I like it when I'm able to figure things out by myself. It's like trial and error, trying things out. It's like, this is not working. Why is it not working? And if I'm doing something completely off, I'm just like look it up on the internet or talk with someone that I respect, and they will teach me,
So is that how you kind of went about learning your craft? Was just kind of just practice?
Yeah. And I always thought I knew what I was doing, but maybe I didn't. And maybe that was why I didn't get in the first place, because I had this great confidence in myself. Since my parents were always so supportive, and in school everyone was so nice, always telling me, "Oh, you're so good at drawing, you're so good at painting." So I thought I was like, I was really good at it. And maybe I had some talent for it, but in the end, making art is also about having a direction and knowing what your art is about. Not only making the craft, but also like having an idea about what you want to say, what you want to communicate,
Sure.
And I was kind of a bit lost in that aspect. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I like to make a portrait, so I make a portrait, and then I paint a dog, and it's like, I don't know, it didn't really make any sense. And I think the art schools maybe saw that and thought like, okay, she knows her craft, but she's like, she doesn't really have a voice, you know, like she doesn't have anything to say.
How did you go about, like, was that something that you realized at one point, or is it just something that you kind of think about in retrospect?
In retrospect, I definitely see it now. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, of course I didn't get in because I didn't know what I was doing, you know, and it's so clear now, you know, when I've been doing it for a lot of years. And I actually know now, like now I know what my art is about. I know now what I want to say, you know, what's important for me and what I'm doing, you know, but back then yeah.
How do you feel that you made that eventual discovery? If it wasn't sort of a watershed moment where you suddenly realized, aha, this is what it's about, how did you get it over time?
Well, I started, the thing I'm doing mostly is I'm making these portraits and they're mixed with water and stuff like that. And they're about a lot of emotions, a lot of personal emotions, things that I'm going through. And in the beginning, it was just an idea that got to me, like, oh, maybe I should paint myself in water, you know, like that would be cool. That could be a fun challenge for me to do, like try to paint myself like, oh, maybe I'm drowning. That could be fun. Like, oh, that's a bit like morbid, you know. I've always been into like art like that. It's a bit weird or scary or like evokes something, you know, in me. And so yeah, I should try that. And then I did that, and I thought it was fun, you know, and I just kept going. And then I became this water portrait person, you know. I just went with it for years. And then something happened to me in 2014 and 2015 that really like shook me as a person. And it was kind of a traumatic experience. It had to do with my first son that I had in a past relationship. And that it just, I don't know, it broke me down completely as a person. And I had to build myself up. And I was using my art to do that, to figure out like, why am I doing this, and who am I, and what do I have to live for? So yeah, I learned a lot from that. I was painting like 15, 16 hours a day because it was the only thing that made any sense to me at the time. I was pretty depressed, and I didn't have any. I didn't have a death wish, but I didn't have any reason to live, if you put it that way. And art was the only thing that made me happy, you know. So I just focused on that, and then my emotional portraits became about something else. They were really about me then, and what I was feeling and what I was going through. And it became really important for me to just, it was the only way I could like let my emotions out, you know? So that's where it started, the awakening of who I really am as an artist, you know? And yeah, and now time has passed, and I'm happy now, and I feel a lot better, but it's still a part of me, that thing that I went through, and I'm still going through in some way.
So early on, when you were first getting started, you come back to Sweden. I guess having shown in Spain and becoming familiar with that art scene in Spain, was it an adjustment to start kind of looking for places to show in Sweden? Are those kind of art communities different? Was that a weird transition?
Yeah, I felt maybe that the art scene in Sweden is more like the people here aren't as positive about art in general, and they're more focused on who you are as a person and what art degree you have. And when I started out in Spain, no one cared about how old I was, what I had done, you know, if I went to a school. They were just focused on the art. But once I got back to Sweden, they was always like, yeah, and where did you study? Where did you get your degree? Like, what's on your resume, you know? And it wasn't really about the art anymore. So that was different. I still tried, you know, I always, from the beginning, it was always important for me to show anywhere. Like when you're starting out, I think it's important you shouldn't feel above any anything. You should be like in a coffee shop or whatever. Just any opportunity to show your work is good, you know. So that's what I did. And also I felt it was really important to be online very early, like in all the platforms since it was kind of difficult in Sweden to get out and to reach everyone. I thought that it was maybe a good thing to be online on different platforms and show my work there.
Is that how you ultimately like connected with Andrew and the folks at ThinkSpace to get your US debut?
You know, I actually don't know exactly how they found out about me. I know that Andrew wrote me an email like in late 2009 and then got back to me I think or was it late 2008? I don't remember. And it was just like a dream come true, obviously. And but I think it was because I had a very strong presence on like platforms like Flickr was very popular back then. I also submitted to Juxtapos on their online version. They always had like, yeah, you can send us your paintings and we'll show them. We will feature you maybe. And I did that and they made me a feature. I don't know if they found out about me there. I really don't know. I should ask them sometime.
And after that first show with them in 2011, you know, you showed several times since then in both solo exhibitions and group shows. Is it important to you to have a strong gallery relationship like that? Do you feel like it's a necessary component of, you know, an artist's career in 2021?
I think I love working with galleries. I still do, but I have dialed it back a bit because I was getting a bit burned out on always making big paintings and sending them off. It's really expensive to ship all over the world, you know, sitting here in Sweden and sending stuff to California. It gets quite expensive and then maybe you don't sell and it's a huge bummer if you've been working on something for months, you know. So I'm trying to like relax a bit and do... But I still love having a good relationship with galleries. It's important to me, yeah. And I only work with galleries, of course, that are nice and that you have a good vibe with.
And so you also mentioned social media and your kind of early adoption of social media. How do you feel about social media's, I guess, role in the modern career of an artist? Like how important is it and how potentially negative is it? Are there goods and bads? Like what's your perception of social media?
I think it's it's a two-edged sword for sure. It's like it's not all positive because it can be, because of the algorithm and everything, it can be very difficult for artists who aren't really big yet or hasn't gotten the opportunity. You know, it's just, yeah, it can be, I'm sure it can feel pretty hopeless if you're starting out and you don't get visible, you know. I'm lucky because I got seen pretty early. I don't have a huge following, but I'm still have the big enough following for me to be able to, I don't know, support myself, you know, and sell my art independently if I want to, you know.
Sure.
So that's actually a huge relief, and I don't know how an artist go about things these days without social media, to be honest. If they only, I don't know, I don't think I know any artist who is just only relying on the gallery to do everything for them. That's kind of rare these days. And galleries also tell you to always be like, yeah, you need to promote this. The shows we're doing, you need to promote it. It's like you have the equal responsibility as the gallery to promote it online and on all the platforms, you know. Yeah, it's important.
Do you like schedule time within your day to do social media things? Is it something that has like a formal presence in your schedule?
Yeah, I have to. And some days I get a bit stressed out. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't posted anything in 3 days. I'm just like, oh, you know, because I feel like, it can become a bit stressful. It can. Like if I rarely feel like that I can take a day off, you know, from social media. It's always there, like in the back of my head, like you need to make something and post it, you know, you need to post something. You need to be there. People need to see you, you know. I don't know. Sometimes I wish I could just unplug everything and just like shut everything off, but I can't. It's fun too, but it can be stressful. So.
Well, that's what I wonder is like what kind of effect that's having on people's just thought process, how their brain works. I mean, there's just so much that we don't know about the long-term impacts of on anxiety, on, so like we talked a little bit about kind of you kind of went into a little bit about the voice that you developed over time and some of that being the results of some tragedy in your own personal life. One thing that obviously is a huge thematic for you is water, and you mentioned that a little bit, but I guess how did that become a big focus for you? How did you first kind of land on that as, oh wow, I'm going to do that? Like that's something that I can tackle.
Yeah, that was, like I said before, it was just that day when I was actually out walking my dog and I saw this big puddle of water, and it looked kind of eerie, it was like, I just, when I walked my dog, I could always like get into weird thoughts, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like a body in that pool of water, in the field. Like, wow, that would be so scary. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should try to paint that, or maybe I should try to paint someone drowning or myself drowning. Like it was tickling my imagination, like what that would look like. And then I was thinking about how that also would represent myself drowning in all the pressure in my life around being an artist, how difficult it actually was being an artist, trying to make money and make something that you want to make, but also something that people want and that people want to buy and want to own. And in a sense, it would be like a feeling of drowning. And and I have gotten comments. They are rare, but occasionally I get comments like, "Oh, you're promoting suicide by painting that," and I'm like, "That's not what it's about. I don't know what you're trying to project, but yeah."
So has, I guess, the importance of water or what it represents in your work evolved over time? I mean, if it was originally about like, the feelings of drowning and being overwhelmed, has that changed over the course of your career?
Yeah, of course, when I was going through that depression, a lot of it was, the focus was on how the water was tears, but I wouldn't make it as obvious as only the tears on my face, but it was just like the tears, but it was so much sadness that it was just like flowing over me, like it was flooded with tears, like in the shower. So yeah, that's how it kind of evolved.
I mean, water in general, I feel like that's a difficult thing to paint, like as a non-painter. So, forgive my naivety,
no,
but
it's okay.
Just the way it interacts with the world around it, it's very different from solid things, right? It reflects and refracts light in different ways, how it flows over things. So like that's a completely different set of challenges, I would imagine. I guess how did you learn that? Like I guess first, did you enjoy the challenge of it, and that was part of what attracted you to it? And then how did you like figure that out?
Yeah, that was exactly how it started. Like I felt like this is something I really want to learn how to do well, because I if you look at artists who really know how to paint water, it's just like, it's mind-blowing. How are they doing that? I was thinking that. I was just like, I want to be able to do that somehow. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And the first painting I did, it was, it was a struggle. It took me like, I don't know, it took me like 2 months to do something that today I would make in like 2 weeks if I had the time and focus, So I learned to do it faster, and I think I've gotten better at it too. But I really haven't, like I said, I haven't really gone to a school learning how to do it. It's just been practice, and sitting with something, doing it like 15, 16 hours a day. In the end, you know how to do it in your sleep,
In addition to water, obviously, figures, people are a constant thematic for you as well, and often yourself. And like you said earlier, these are often kind of reflections of your own feelings and emotions. I guess, has that been difficult at all, just exposing yourself in that way and kind of opening yourself up and the vulnerability that comes with that?
Not really. I'm kind of, I'm an introvert, so I'm not like super social with people, but I have a tendency of really being able to open up about anything. So it wasn't that hard. And also I've used myself a lot because I don't spend a lot of time with other people. So it's easier for me to just, I get an idea about what I want to do. I can just like take some reference pictures of myself and paint it straight away, because that's another thing about this. I don't like to wait. When I have like these ideas that come to me, I don't want to sit around and wait for someone to send me pictures, or to go and decide with someone to go to a place and shoot some reference photos in 2 weeks, when I want to do it now. I kind of like eager to get to work, and that's why I use myself, because I'm always there, like, oh, that's my face again. Whatever, I can use it.
I'm sure you've gotten used to painting yourself, I guess, a lot. You do it in your sleep. Yeah.
It's not because I enjoy my own face so much. It's just because I'm always available. That's basically what it is.
For the ones that aren't of you, are they generally people that you know and have some familiarity with?
Yeah, most of them. Some of them I barely know at all. They're just people that acquaintances online or something like that I get to know a bit. And I'm like, wow, you're really inspiring. Like you have and it feels like they understand me and my vision, and we connect like that instantly, and they're really easy, and I can just like, hey, can I paint you, please? And I'm like, yeah, of course. But a lot of people are also like friends I have. A lot of them are online friends. I have a lot of online friends, like other artists I paint.
Do you feel that when you do know the person really well, that it helps make the piece stronger and makes it to where you can, I guess, represent them in a more faithful way, both in terms of appearance, but also just emotion and expression?
Yeah, of course. Of course, it's always easier if you know the person and if you met them in person, because it's hard if you only have seen a person like in a photo once. It's very hard to get it. Like who is this person? Who are they? It just adds another layer to the piece if you know the person. But if I don't know them, it's also fine. A photo reference in itself can be very inspiring to me, and just the way the light hits the person, and the shadows and the colors, and it can be just as inspiring.
Are you still telling stories about yourself even when it's other people, or are you trying to tell their stories in some way?
I think it's mostly about myself. I mean, I can tell other people's stories as well and find them equally fascinating, but it's easiest for me to tell stuff about me and my own story. And sometimes that's also why I see other people and I'm like, you're very inspiring to me, because I connect with them and I can see myself in them in a way. And I don't know. It's all focus on me and my story.
No, I mean, I think it's natural. I think that's what you're most comfortable and intimately familiar with. So I
just want to be truthful and honest in my work and be like, this is. It would be strange for me to try to tell someone else's story, because they know their stories best, Sure. And
I guess one thing that I've talked to a few people about, and it's always folks that I see have a strong kind of narrative backbone to their work. Is it important to you that your audience, I guess, understands your intent and the story that you're wanting to tell through your work? Or does that not matter so much, and it's more about just getting those feelings out there and letting them interpret it however they will?
Oh, it doesn't really matter to me if they understand exactly what I want to say. It's I want everyone to have their own interpretation of my work, because that's how what I like about other people's art as well. I want to see a piece. Of course, it's nice if you have like a little story about it, and they tell you, but it's equally as nice to just make up your own things in your own head. Like, I don't know. It's So for me, it doesn't matter if people can connect to my work in other ways, and that's fine. I just need to have my therapy. Like, this is my therapy. I need to put out these paintings.
No, I get that. Have you had any people tell you about interesting interpretations that you've never really thought of before?
Yeah, one was the suicide aspect. Oh, okay. Like, what are you talking about? I did not see that coming, but that was probably the weirdest thing anyone ever told me, and I think it even happened twice. And I really remember it strongly. Like, it was just baffling to me. but it's okay, if they feel that way. But I don't know. I felt like they were accusing me of being a bad person. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if that's their interpretation and, that's what they take away from it. But to turn it back around on you, I think that's inappropriate. What's the starting point for your work? Like, how do you develop ideas for a new piece or a new like body of work if it's a larger like a show? Do you start with sketching at all? Do you have a journal? Like, where do you typically start?
Yeah, I have a journal where I put on ideas, like scribbles. I don't do a lot of sketching before I start. I usually just put down often when I go to sleep, a lot of ideas come to me, and I write it down in my phone when I'm half asleep. Like, oh yeah, that's going to be a great painting. And then I fall asleep in the morning. I'm like, what? What's this? But sometimes it turns out okay. But yeah, usually just writing down notes and different ideas that come to me, and then I can also just start taking photos, and then they can go in one direction or another, as I go along. Like, oh, I should try that. Oh, maybe I should try that.
Oh, that's interesting. So the photo shoots can also be sort of an idea generation tool.
Yeah, exactly.
For the ones that are of you, do you take the photos of yourself? Like, do you have like a tripod set up, or like how do you do that?
I usually take them myself. It's really hard. Not the ones where I'm underwater. They are very difficult to take by myself, but and they're awfully uncomfortable as well to take. But the ones, when it's like shower portraits, or where I have water in my face, or just making stupid faces, I usually take myself. So yeah, using a tripod or just putting it on a stand somewhere.
How does it work with, I mean, you're pouring liquid. I mean, are you actually like pouring water over your head when you're taking? And so how do you capture that? Do you have it set up on like a timer? And you just have it continuously take photos?
Yep, that's how I do it. It's not very glamorous.
Interesting.
It's just like, it's those days when I'm like, okay, I need to be alone. No one should be at home when I'm doing this or interrupt me, because it's very awkward,
That's funny. What about for other people, when it's pictures of other people? Are you pouring water on their heads? Are they pouring water on their heads? Like, what is that?
It has happened sometimes when I have photo shoots with friends, and but I'm very bad at directing people too. I get really awkward with that. I'm just like, I don't want to tell people what to do. I don't like being a boss like that. Like, oh, do that, do a pose like that. Maybe you can, that's hard for me. I'm more like, do your thing. I'll take some photos. Meanwhile, you're doing, maybe try whatever you want. Then something will turn out good. I know that. And they usually do. And when it's people that I like, people like friends I have in the US or something, and I tell them like, yeah, can you send me some photos? Maybe, are you feeling inspired? Maybe you can take some pictures when you take a bath,
That's an awkward conversation.
Yeah, I know. But they're usually very cool, and they're like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, I'm going to take a shower later. I can take you some pictures.
So I guess when you go into a photo shoot that you're actually present for, do you go into those with an idea of poses already in mind that you want to try out, or is it just sort of organically develop as you're there?
I have a slight idea of what I'm after, but it usually develops, while we're doing it, and sometimes it can turn out like way different than something that I had in mind, and that can actually be a very good thing. And also getting the input from the model is also like, they usually have some really good ideas.
Once you have a good kind of collection of photos that you're happy with, what's the next step in your process? Do you draw out like refined drawings first, or do you just kind of jump right into oil?
I usually do a pretty refined drawing, and then I trace it upon I put the drawing on top of the panel or the canvas, and I trace it out. So, and then I start painting it.
And you work pretty mostly in oil. I was going to say exclusively, but you've also done watercolor and other things as well. I guess, but about oil, what is it that you like about working in oil?
Ooh, I don't know. It's I don't know why. It's always been very easy for me. I was trying out acrylics for a while. That was like 2006. I tried out acrylics and I was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. It doesn't dry. It dries instantly and it changes color and I can't mix it the way I want. And it was just like, it was a nightmare. So, I don't know. It's always been my go-to, when I started out like a teen, like when I was like 10, 11, 12, I was always making pencil drawings and color pencil drawings. And that was my thing back then. But as time has progressed, I'm just like, what's my favorite medium? It's definitely the oils. And, I don't know why, because it's, it's expensive, but at the same time, I use very thin layers when I paint, so I don't waste a lot of paint. I usually, I have some tubes that I got when I was like 20 still, and I'm older now, so.
That's cool. What, I guess you also you've worked in watercolor, right? I'm pretty sure that I saw, do you like working in watercolor? Is it something that you enjoy too? I
usually work with watercolors when I'm a bit burned out on oils, when I feel like I'm a bit stuck or I don't have inspiration or I just feel like, I'm so tired of this. It's just, I don't know, I feel like I'm in a rut somehow. I need to break free from that feeling. And then I'm like, now it's time for the watercolor because it's so different from oils. It's just doesn't behave in any way that you want. It just do whatever it pleases. And if you're lucky, it turns out good, At least that's how it is for me because
So is there, I guess, going to watercolor when you're not feeling inspired by oils, is it because there's something inherently positive about watercolors, or is it just because it's not oils?
I think I like watercolors. It's not just because it's not oils, but it's because it behaves so differently, and because I have a lot of respect for artists who do watercolor and they know how to master it well. I'm like, I wish I could become that good, and know how to work it perfectly. But I know that I won't because I don't have the time or energy for that. But every now and again, I like to do it just because, I don't know, it's relaxing. It's a bit meditative, It's just like you let things happen. It's just nice, yeah.
Are there other mediums that you'd like to explore someday?
Yeah, definitely more watercolors. I would like to do that. And every now and again, I get into sculpting, and I want to try to sculpt more. That would be fun. But it's also something that I really don't have the time to do as it is right now.
What kind of sculpting? Is it clay, like clay sculpting?
Yeah, clay or, I don't know. There are a lot of different clays that I haven't tried, I have zero experience with it, but I will. Yes, maybe one day when I retire.
One thing about oil, in particular, though, is it can be toxic, right? So I guess, where's your studio? Do you have a studio in your home, or is it a dedicated studio outside your home?
Yeah, I've always had a studio in my home, and it hasn't been an issue until now when I have a toddler. He's almost 2 now, and he's very curious about everything. So I have actually gotten a studio in the basement of our apartment building that I'm renting. That I will be moving down there shortly, and I will get my paints in peace, and it will all be fine. Because now it's a bit chaotic with him running all over and wanting to eat stuff, and throw things around. So, but it's also a thing about the toxicity is that I don't use a lot of solvents at all. Actually, I just use the paint as it is. I don't use like thinners or, stuff like that. So I try to keep it at the minimum.
Right. I guess I was going to ask you about how your process or your environment might have changed since the onset of COVID. But if you're working at home, it probably hasn't changed a whole lot.
No, it hasn't. No, honestly, it hasn't. The only thing that has changed is that my husband has been working from home every now and again, in periods. So it's been more like, I have to be a bit more quiet around here because he's like on the phone talking, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So maybe my kid and I can't run around and make noises all the time like we do when I'm not working. So, but except from that, it's been the same, to be honest. I have been doing better. I've been selling more work than normal, which is a positive thing this year. But apart from that, it hasn't changed.
Do you think that is a result of COVID, or I mean,
could be? I don't know.
Why do you think? I guess what do you think about the pandemic might have driven that? Traffic.
I have been thinking about that, and I think one part of it can be that people are a bit bored. They're at home more. They're like, what should I do? And internet shopping online has become a bigger part of people's lives during this time. And I also think that they can't, at least in Sweden, we have like this, people usually go on paid vacation, like 4 weeks every summer. And now they can't do that because the borders are shut and they have been forced to stay at home. So they're like, what am I going to do with this money that I'm saving up? And they can spend it on something now that's not like a trip or I don't know. They don't need a new car because where are they going? I don't know.
They're also like at home looking at their walls. And
exactly. Interior decorating, stuff like that has become more important, I think, as well. So it could be a factor.
I noticed that you've looking back through your Instagram feed, you started doing several of these paintings a day. I don't know if that's something that you're still keeping up with, but is that something that you started just in the wake of COVID, just to keep you busy?
I guess it had more to do with my me being on parental leave, or what you could call it, because I'm not actually on parental leave. I'm always working, but I'm also taking care of a kid, and it was just a way for me to get something, paint something kind of fast when he was napping. I was like, okay, so I have 2 hours now, so I can like paint something fast, and then I can like, if someone wants it, that's great. And if not, it's also okay, because at least I have, I don't get rusty, I get to make stuff. It's harder to meet deadlines when you're like when you don't know how much you're going to be able to work because of your kid. So so I need to have deadlines kind of far away and know when they're coming. Like, okay, so I have that. I can't do something for like 3 weeks from now because I'm not going to have time for that. But I can do something in 2 hours, and just like, that's not that I don't have to put as much energy into. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I guess have those smaller pieces inspired you to create larger, like full-sized finished pieces out of them? Like,
yeah, for sure. For sure, yeah. Because I started out really small, like only a few inches. And then, because that's what I had time with then. And now as I have more time to work, they have become bigger and bigger. So, yeah. But in the end, I'm actually pretty happy with making smaller work right now. If it isn't for like a commission or something, I can do something big because I know it will be worthwhile. But putting a lot of hours into something that eventually might not sell, I don't know, it doesn't feel as appealing right now. So I'm taking it easy with that.
And how do I know you mentioned that you do commissions, and I was going to ask you about that. How do your commissions work? Is it something that people kind of reach out to you on social media? Like, how do they go about requesting a commission?
Yeah, usually like that. People reach out to me on Instagram or on Facebook. Sometimes they email me, but these days it's usually via social media. And they just ask me like, well, sometimes they want a pet painted, or sometimes they want something that is more in my style. Like, can you make something like a water portrait or whatever, I'm actually happy to try pretty much anything when it comes to commissions. I know a lot of artists don't really like commissions because they can be kind of hard, and the buyer wants to be there and decide and point out stuff that you need to change, and but it's okay. I don't mind.
Yeah. So when people come to you, do they usually have a fully like fleshed out idea of exactly what they want, or is it more organic where they give you some amount of freedom to kind of take it where you want it?
Oh, that really depends. Sometimes they know exactly what they want, and I'm just very restricted in what I can do. There's no artistic freedom at all, and sometimes they just say like, oh, just do your thing, it will be fine, so it really differs.
And so do you still take the ones that are super restrictive? Because I feel like that would be a little stifling.
Yeah. I try to.
Yeah.
If it turns out, I think there's maybe one commission that I haven't finished because it was just too much of a struggle working with the person, so I had to say like, I'm sorry, I can't continue with this. But this was years ago. Usually I don't give up. I just like the thought of being able to make something for someone that they really want to have, and if they have a very clear idea in their head what they want, and I can try. I can't get into their heads, because, and I try to explain that, like, I'm not a machine. I don't know what's inside your head and the vision you got. I can only like try to make it something similar to what you want. But I don't know. I just want people to be happy with what they get. That's ultimately my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you still taking like new commissions now? Like if somebody listening wanted to reach out?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. I love commissions because I like to make people happy, it's nice because it's money that that you will get. There's no risk really in that, so I like that. It's great to have a nice mix of commission work, gallery work, and work that you want to make. Because why not? And then if someone reach out and want to buy it, or I can put it in my shop, online shop or something. That's I don't know. I like it like that. Like.
What's like the ideal mix? Like how much of your time would you like to do? Have you thought about percentage of a year? Like what do you prefer to work on?
That's interesting. I haven't thought about that actually, because usually it's just things just happen. It's like I have every start of when a new year starts, I'm always thinking like, okay, so this year I'm going to do this, and then after the year is over, I realized that it did not turn out like that at all, because stuff happened, and then it's like, okay, so I ended up doing way more gallery work than I thought I would do, because I thought I would say no to a lot of things, and I'm bad at saying no. So I don't know what would be the ideal percentage. Maybe equal parts of the three, I think, and mixed up, like, okay, I do a commission, and then work after I do a gallery piece, and then I do something for myself, like that. But, I don't know if that happens too often, but yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, because if you set up that goal, but then you're not good at saying no to things, then it's just going to fall. It's going to fall apart anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about what you have coming up. Like, what does the rest of 2021 look like for you?
Well, I have. I don't know when this episode is coming out, but I have a group show at GR2, Giant Robot, coming up. It's 8x8 show, so it's like 8 inches times 8 inches. Pieces. That group show is coming up on July 17th, I think, and it's up until August 11th, maybe, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. And then I have a group show at the Cactus Gallery in the fall, and also on Dark Art Emporium. And then I have some. And also Crystal Gallery in Brooklyn, and
are these all group shows? Yes.
I haven't done a solo show since 2019 because I just felt like I have to take a break from that, and I don't know. I'm not prepared mentally for that yet. We'll see when the state of mind returns. Right
on. And I guess you've also you mentioned wanting to to kind of focus on or enjoying smaller works and more affordable works. And I noticed you've been focusing a lot on that lately, putting up just small works in your shop and just, putting them up in your store and letting folks buy them. Is that something like new for you? Is that something that you just started trying out recently?
Yeah, it's kind of new for me, and it's because I realized that like what kind of person I am, and I am a person that wants everyone to be able to afford art. I think it's wrong that only a very small percentage of the population will afford my art and what I make. I think that's wrong, and because I know also that I have a lot of followers that are like students, or they are artists themselves, or they can't afford a big piece of mine, and I feel like, I don't know, I'm a poor artist myself, and I like to buy art, but I can't afford these big pieces of other artists either. And I just know the feeling of really wanting a piece from someone that you adore, and respect. And so I want to put that out in the world,
Yeah. Is it something you'll think you'll continue to do for a while?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't updated my shop in a while now because I haven't had time. But I definitely want to get back to that, because I think I don't know. It's a lot of positivity surrounding that, being able to send out pieces to people that, like, oh, this is I never thought I could afford a piece by you. And it's just so nice to hear that, and that anyone could buy an artwork,
I guess, what's the best way for people to find out when you're going to be putting more of those up?
I guess I usually post on my Instagram when it's time. And my Instagram is your favorite color. And it has kind of a weird spelling error in it.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Well, I guess it's an error if you're not from the US, right?
Yeah. So it's favorite spelled with an O-U,
right,
and color with an O only. And that's...
right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That was inconsistent. Right. Okay, I get it now.
And that's actually, that was just like, I didn't realize it either until I had only gotten the name on Instagram when I, like, way back. I don't know when I got it, in 2013 or something like that. And I just registered that name. And then I realized, like, oh shit, okay, whatever, it's okay. I didn't think Instagram was going to be a thing anyway. So I was just like, I'll stick to it.
Yeah, this fly-by-night Instagram, it's just going to go away. Yeah. What was the background of that name? I'm curious about that.
I don't even remember. Because if it was today, I would have picked my name, obviously, like Linnea Strid, but I didn't. And then a few years ago, I was like, oh, maybe I should change. And I checked if Linnea Strid was available, but it wasn't. And I had already changed. I have a private Instagram as well that I picked with a version of Linnea Strid. And then I have another Instagram with my commission work, because I post commissions there that doesn't really fit my official Instagram. And it's Linnea Strid _ art. And that's my TikTok as well, because I couldn't bear put another your favorite color spelling error out in the world.
So how do you like TikTok? That's sort of a new platform for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very hesitant about that place, because I felt like, it just seems so weird, with for kids. I felt like I was kind of above that, like, oh, I'm too old for that. Ridiculous kids doing their dance videos or whatever. I don't get it. But then I thought, like, no, it's important for me to get with the times and be visible where I can, because Instagram isn't really reliable anymore, and you never know what's going to happen with that place. It's you don't know. It's a company. They run it as a business, and you have to be able to find new ways to show your work if they decide to screw things up completely, So I thought, like, no, it's okay. I can just try it out and see what happens. And it's actually not too bad. I kind of like it there. It's
fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And people are so nice, to me at least. And I actually managed to get out my videos and get, like, I don't remember how many views some video got there, but it was like over 500,000 views on a painting video I made, and I was just like, yeah, it was crazy. So it's starting to grow on me, actually, that place. And also another thing I realized is that if that place is for kids mostly and teenagers, and I mean, that's the next generation of art lovers and art buyers, you know. And as an artist, you shouldn't like frown upon kids, because that's the future. You know, they are going to discover art today, and maybe they are going to grow up and be able to buy something one day. You know, you can't be like, I don't want to associate with the kids. It's too, I'm too good for that. You know, I think you should be, you should try anything. You know.
For sure, yeah, and I've sort of had the same perception of TikTok as, you know, it being more populated or kind of run by a younger generation, but I never frowned upon it. It was always me feeling like inadequate. Like I'm not as talented as some of these people are. Like, they're incredible. Like, who am I? You know, so I feel old, but I don't frown on it because I think they're doing some great stuff. Like, I just don't know that I have anything to add to that, you know?
I mean, I agree. There are some really talented people on there. Seriously.
All right, so last question, and this is something that I like to ask everybody. Who is one artist that you'd like to see me have on the show?
Oh, yeah, that was terrible question, because there's so many. And it was so hard to pick one for me, because I have so many artists that I love out there. But I've been thinking about, and I'm probably going to butcher her name as well, because I'm not sure how she pronounces it. Jana Breik. Do you know her?
I do know her, but I don't know if you're pronouncing it right either.
Right? So oh, damn it. But I think she's from Latvia, and I just love her art. She's so amazing, and I would love to hear a conversation where she's talking about her art. Awesome.
Yeah, no, great choice. So, Linnea, thank you so much for coming out and chatting with me. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. It was been great.
All right. Awesome. Cool. So we can cut there. What do you think?
It was fun.
So that's it for this episode of Art Affairs. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Linnea. It was really interesting to find out how the significance of water in her work has changed and evolved throughout the course of her career. How at first it was her way of expressing her feelings, of being overwhelmed and drowning under the weight of all that she was going through. And then following some, personal trauma, it changed to reflect the feelings of depression and sadness that she was dealing with. That had sort of become her mode of expression and her way of articulating her feelings through, imagery. And I like what she had to say about wanting to make work that's accessible to all kinds of collectors, even if they don't have a lot of money, allowing everyone to find something that they can love and appreciate. That's such an important consideration to think about, and it's something that came up in my chat with Eric from Giant Robot a few episodes ago. Giving new collectors a place to start and a way to dip their toe in the water without completely breaking the bank. It's so vital from a sustainability perspective for sure, but I think for me, I feel like it would be awfully fulfilling as well, just being able to make art available to people who may not otherwise have that opportunity. Being the reason that someone fell in love with art. I love that. So thanks again to Linnea for joining me today, and thank you for checking out the show. I'm truly grateful for your support. And just a reminder, one big way you can help out if you're really enjoying the show would be to check out the show's Patreon. You can find all the details on patreon.com/artaffairs. And as always, you can contact me through my website at artaffairs.podcast.com or on Instagram at artaffairs.podcast. So until next time, be good to yourself and be good to each other.